All right, what is going on? Everybody, welcome back to another episode on What the Sheet. And in the last episode, I did a tool review on the Skill 12-volt cutter that I use for breaking down plywood, or not plywood, cardboard. And then at the end of that video, I kind of mentioned that I showed this tool off, which is a Reekon M1 measuring a caliber. Let's see, what do they call it? So it's the Reekon M1 caliber electronic measuring device. Basically what this does is, as you can see, I have it mounted on my miter saw, and it just clamps the fence here. And then this does is this arm comes down, and this little wheel here, so I'll push this over, and as you can see, as I push the piece through, it's giving me a measurement, and that measurement is what comes out on the other side after I cut. So, and it goes backwards and forwards. So in the top left corner here, it's got a little negative. So we're negative 2 inches and 1/16 from the blade. And then if you go this way, once it goes past 0 again, then you have a little plus. And then there's different measuring modes. So you can have different levels of degrees, decimals in feet and inches, centimeters, millimeters, meters, inches, and decimals again. So you got quite a good variety of different forms of measurement. So if you're doing something in metric, like let's say you're doing a lot of plywood projects, most plywood comes in millimeter thicknesses, even in America. So if you want to keep it all the same way, it's a real simple tool. You just cycle through here, and let's say you keep it in centimeters. So now if I were to cut this at let's try and get it to 6. Oops. There we go. So now we got it at 6 centimeters. If I were to cut this, and I don't have my metric tape measure up here with me, but cut it, and it's not going to be 100% accurate because there always is that chance you get a little bit of slippage on the wheel. Let's say you get some sawdust underneath there, or the board slips, or look, even like this, just touching it, it goes off by 1/100th of a centimeter. So there is going to be a little bit of variability there, but for the most part, this thing is pretty accurate for what it does. In the box, or the little foam case, I guess, the instructions kind of tuck in here for setting it up, calibrating it, which I'm going to keep in here just because at some point I might get a different saw, or I might want to move it to the other side of the saw, which I could do, or put it on a different saw. And it's just nice to kind of keep it so I know how to calibrate this, because it's a relatively simple process, but it's not really that intuitive. So to reset it, you just make sure that the workpiece is all the way up against the blade. And then they made it real easy with the big button. That's your reset. And that'll reset it so that this 1/16, this is a negative 1/16. And it's not exactly 1/16, but it's close enough. And what that is accounting for the thickness of the blade. So like as I said before, this is a negative measurement. So it's basically a negative 1/16 of a cut, which would be basically right there. So if I push this over, once again, we're now in the positive. So we'll try and get to, let's say, all right, 2.5. So let's try and cut a 2.5-inch piece and see how accurate it is. All right, same deal. And as you can see, maybe not, it's pretty much right on the money at 2.5. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to get this tool, was for the ability to do multiple cuts even at smaller lengths. Obviously when you get towards the end of the board, this isn't going to work, because once I get past right there, I can't measure these last 3, 4, maybe 5 inches of a board, but most of the time I'm not having to do that anyways, so it's not that big of a deal for me. I can potentially move this a little bit closer if I really wanted to. I could put a sacrificial fence on and I could clamp it closer to the blade, but in reality this is a good spot for it. it's far enough away from the blade itself where I'm not worried about, you know, the blade catching the wheel or anything like that. And one other nice thing about this tool is it actually has a pretty good amount of downforce on it. So it also acts as almost like a light clamp on your workpiece as you're pushing it through to cut it. So you don't necessarily have to hold your workpiece as you cut. It's always good practice to still do that, but if you're getting close to the end and you maybe have a really long piece that's sticking out this way, you could, you know, let that go over there and measure, and then come over here, put your left hand on the saw, and then you have your right hand holding, you know, your workpiece that's out here. Even if you have, you know, your extension all the way out, and you just want to have that extra support, so that way when you cut it doesn't go flying all over the place. And then in the last video, I mentioned price for this, or I was going to talk about mentioning price. I paid $100 for this. I'll put the number on the screen right now, or how much this actually costs retail, because like I said, I bought this from Kickstarter. So this was probably about a year ago now when this was first kind of announced. And the channel that I originally saw this promoted on was RR Buildings. I'll try and put a link for his channel. I know I mentioned him in the past, but he got a very, very early version of this, and it did the exact same thing, looked almost identical to this. And that's when I kind of decided that this would be a good idea for my shop for doing, you know, a lot of repeated cuts. Instead of putting up those little you know, stop blocks or anything like that, I could just have this set up, and every time I do my cut, just reset, cut, reset, cut, reset. Super simple. So yeah, that's really nice. And just going in between cuts, I don't have to, you know, go over here and fiddle with my saw to, you know, set the stop block out farther or closer, move this back and forth. I can just, as long as this is on, it's got batteries, I'm good to go. What else? This does take 2 AA batteries on the side here. This has just got a little screw knob that comes out, and then there, you know, your battery just sit there. Here, I can take this off. So here's the back side of the tool. So these 2 yellow parts, this is what actually clamps to the fence on your saw, and then this yellow clip. So when you clamp it, you're gonna squeeze, and then the yellow clamp will lock that down. So now this is clamped tight. And then to release it, you just push up on that while kind of squeezing down at the same time. And then this opens up. And then one nice thing is, this isn't, you don't have to recalibrate it every time you take it off your saw, because every time you hit 0, it'll 0 it to the blade. The only time you'd have to recalibrate is for new saw blades, just because that's that negative whatever degree or inches or millimeters, that's where that's coming from the width of the saw blade. And like I said, that's not too hard to recalibrate for that. All right, so let's say you bought a new blade for your saw and you want to calibrate it because your old blade was a thin kerf and this one's a wider kerf blade, or whatever your justification is for needing to calibrate it. And it's always probably good practice to do it every time you change the blade, and it doesn't really take all that long. So press and hold center button here, and you'll see blade pop up on the screen. And so right now I have this blade calibrated to 5/64, and all you got to do is, with the wheel up, is you just turn the wheel and it'll adjust the thickness of that blade back and forth. So like I said, I have mine set to 5/64 because that's about what it is. And then once you're done, I do believe it's a single click. Yep. So single click on the main button, that's kind of like your enter. And now you're good, and you have that -1/16 right there. So -1/16, this is in inches. I'm not exactly sure what that symbol is. I'm sure in the instruction little pamphlet here, it'll tell me. I've still got to kind of play with this a little bit. And then it also does a degrees. I'm not really sure where that'll come in handy. Maybe if you're doing angle cuts. I'll have to, like I said, I'll have to read the instructions a little bit more and play with this some more before I kind of get into all the little things that this little tool can do. But I think that's a good enough overview. You will see this in all my videos from here on out, because this is just going to be living on the miter saw. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions, I will try to find a link for this on their website. I'm sure they have one. And like I said, I bought this on Kickstarter a long time ago when it was pretty cheap, and they're just starting to ship these now. So like I got this 2 weeks ago at the house, and they're still haven't fully shipped out all of the initial pre-orders from the Kickstarter campaign, but they are planning to have these in stores that you can buy them, you know, probably like Menards, Home Depot, maybe even like a Rockler woodworking store, because that's basically what this is designed to be, is either like a contractor type tool where contractor buys this, clips it on his saw, goes to a job site, you know, super easy way for him and his employees to get their materials cut, or in my case, you know, personal hobbyist, tool accessory to make their miter saw and, you know, hobby work go a lot faster by not having to constantly pull your tape measure out and measure stuff. But if you guys if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comment section, or if you wanted to find out any more information about this, like I said, I'll put the link for the website or where you can find this tool. And yeah, that's all I got for this video. Hope you guys have a good one. Peace out.